Hi there, it's Tara, she of all things transformational, transformational guidance coaching, transformational bodywork, and for our purposes here today, transformational yoga. And today's video is, this is restorative yoga for people who've been doing gardening work, yard work, landscaping, any kind of labor, but especially I'm seeing it through the lens of outside work and work that has a lot of squatting, kind of pulling, kneeling, this kind of thing, this kind of action, bending over, picking things up, that kind of stuff. This is what I am seeing the lens through for today's practice. And today we're going to do restorative yoga for this kind of practice. And so yoga can be used as a counterpose for our lifestyle. Counterpose is when we do something opposite of the previous action. And so I think of using yoga as a counterpose to lifestyle, so that say we're doing something that involves, like I just gave the example of a lot of flexion and pulling and stuff like that, then what we want to do are poses that open up the front of the body, that draw the shoulder blades together, that bring the extensors of the body into openness. The extensors of the body are the things that straighten joints, your quadriceps, your triceps, your back muscles, because when we're doing these actions, these are all the flexors of the body, right? Flexion, 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 flexion. So this practice are poses that are restorative counter poses to those actions. And what is restorative yoga? Well, restorative yoga is a system of yoga where we do not do any work. It's pretty good. And what's beautiful about restorative yoga is that it is meant to help your body release passively in positions that don't have any stretch involved. Sometimes stretch is actually a little violent. So sometimes doing poses that the body is supported by props and allows passive opening to certain joints or patterns is more productive and more effective than like stretching and stretching and stretching and stretching. So we use props to support the body, and we allow the body to be comfortable. It's helpful if where you are is a little darker. Of course, I have, light to be able to record this, but if I was really doing this, I'd be in a, lights off situation. I would use my eye pillow over my eyes. So if you have an eye pillow, grab that. This is great for this practice. And I would want it to be on the quieter side. So, no dogs, cats, kids running around, that kind of thing. Take 15 minutes for yourself, okay? And restorative yoga it is non-active, it is quieting, it is inviting the nervous system into the parasympathetic, so rest and restore. And for our purposes today, it is to counterpose gardening. So we're going to do 3 poses, and restorative yoga is typically very prop intensive, meaning we need a lot of props. I'm trying to choose poses that you won't need a ton of props, because I don't know, maybe you don't have a ton of props. So what we need for today's practice is we need a bolster. And if you don't have a bolster, can you find a bed pillow that's a little bit on the firmer side, or maybe you have some couch pillow that's kind of slightly long? This is the shape of the bolster. It's about this thick. See? We need a bolster. We're going to need 2 yoga blankets. And if you don't have yoga blankets, beach towels work pretty well. Maybe you need 3 instead of 2. If you don't have those, try to find some firmer blankets in your house, but squishy blankets, not so much. And then we're going to need a strap. If you don't have a proper strap, maybe you can use, like a dog leash or something like that. But if you have a strap, that would be ideal for today's practice. So the first pose that we're going to do is called Mountain Brook, and it's really, really lovely. And what we need is we need this bolster for our knees, and then we're going to need the 2 blankets, and I'll show you exactly what you're going to do with the 2 blankets. So we're going to take one blanket open, and I call this is called the Tadasana of blankets. I didn't coin the term. And you're going to open it up to this shape. So if you're using, something else that's not a Mexican blanket, we're going to start with this shape. And then we're going to roll this into a long roll. And I'm going to take the fringed end and start there because I don't want the fringe touching my body. So you're going to have this roll, and I've done this pose a lot, so I know that I don't want this. This is going under my neck curve. I don't want it as thick as it can be. So I'm going to leave just a little tail here sticking out, but you're going to adjust this to be just right for your own neck. And then we're going to take the second blanket, and you're going to go from here to here. And I'm going to start this roll by tucking the fringe in again and then starting the roll. And this is a very skinny long roll. And what I'm going to tell you is that if your back is not used to doing back bends, like you're new to yoga or you have a stiff back or something, you're going to want this to be even thinner. So you're going to want to unroll it a bit. If you unroll it a bit, please have this tail part coming down the mat towards your hips, because this roll is going to go just underneath your shoulder blades. I'm going to use it to the full max because I know that that's what my body likes. Okay, so this is going to be my neck. This is where my shoulder blades are going to be. This is going to be where my butt is, and this is going to be for underneath my knees. So let's see if I've got it spaced out pretty good. I've done the pose a few times. Oh, look at that. Almost perfect. Just a few little adjustments. So I'm going to move that neck roll. And for this pose, filling the cervical spine, your neck, with this roll so that it grabs that bony ridge, the occipital ridge, and allows the forehead to tip back. The chin can kind of rest up, open, and the throat can be a little exposed. Then this roll, the one that's under the spine, I'm going to ask this roll to be just below the shoulder blades. So it's in the middle of the thoracic. And how you can tell if you have it in the right place is, first of all, if you extend your arms open in a T, your shoulder blades will be on the floor. Second of all, if you take your thumbs to the top edge of that roll and you trace them to the front of your body, they should meet up at the bottom of your chest bone, at the apex of your ribs. That's called the xiphoid process. And it shouldn't feel too abrupt or painful. If it's too abrupt or painful, like I said, please unroll it, but have the excess fabric going under your butt, not under your shoulder blades. And then the bolster or pillow or whatever you're using under your knees is mostly under the knees. But if you have to adjust it a little bit, for your comfort, you can adjust it so it's a little bit more under the thighs than under the knees. The most important thing is that you're comfortable. And that is the most important thing in all yoga, restorative yoga poses, is comfort. So you can allow your eyes to close. You're going to let the jaw relax. You're going to feel yourself and make sure that everywhere your body is meeting the floor or a prop feels at ease and you're not tolerating anything. If you're tolerating it, what can you do to adjust to be more comfortable? Sometimes just moving that roll under your spine down quarter inch, half inch is going to make you more comfortable. Sometimes just a light adjustment of where the roll under your neck is or how thick it is. It's nice if you can invite the arms to be open to a T with the palms up. The arms should not be at the sides with the elbows lifted on that middle roll, because then you're closing the front of your body. So if you can be comfortable with the arms open in a T, palms up, coming into the breath, allowing the exhales to be just a little longer. I want to invite you to try to anchor in to your breath. So you are not necessarily, going to give in to your mind's urge to think about all the other things. You are going to find your breath. To let the exhales be deeper. Feel the texture of the breath coming in and out of the nose. Feel the temperature. Feel the temperature of the air on your skin. Allow yourself to become heavy towards the floor. So if there's any little bits of tension anywhere in your body, see if you can exhale and release those little lines of tension. So you really surrender to this. This pose called Mountain Brook pose. You could imagine that your body is like the water and the props are like rocks or logs that the water is flowing over. So I encourage you to stay as long as you want. But I'm going to move on to the next pose. If you want to stay longer, you can just pause the video. To come out of the pose, you're going to bring first one foot onto the bolster or pillow, and then the next, and slide that bolster away. And you're going to scoot your hips over to one side and roll off to whichever side you prefer. And you can take your time, go nice and slow, use your top arm to push yourself up, let the head come last. Just digest that pose for a second. I'm going to set up the next pose, which is going to be legs up the wall. For legs up the wall, you're going to either use 2 blankets, and I'll show you how you would fold them, or your bolster. So if you're using blankets, we're going to go back to that Tadasana of blanket shape. That's this. And then you're going to fold it in half lengthwise. So you get a strip that's about 8 or 10 inches across. And you would use 2 blankets like that, if blankets are what you have, because we need this to be a little bit firmer. So if you're using a soft pillow, the soft pillow under your hips won't really be ideal. So either you have a bolster about 4 or 5 inches away from the wall, or you have 2 blankets. Either way, you can use, it's okay. And if you're using 2 blankets, you might actually want one more for underneath your head, because I am going to use a blanket under my head in this pose. And this is where we're going to have the strap. If you have an actual yoga strap, have it properly looped so that you have a loop that you could pull taut. If you're using something like a dog leash or a bathrobe belt, you'll have to improvise, okay? So here's how we get up, legs up the wall, Viparita Karani. And what I'm going to tell you is that I'm going to talk you down into the pose for a moment or two, but you can stay here, as long as you want. People's legs often fall asleep, so they might burn out around 5 minutes or 10 minutes or something like that. But if you're comfortable being here, you can stay here for 10 or 12 minutes. So if you're going to want to stay longer, just pause the video after I talk you down into it and stay as long as you want, and then we'll just finish the practice when you turn the video back on, okay? Here's how you get into legs up the wall. It's actually not as obvious as some people think. I'm going to sit on the very end of my bolster or your stack of blankets if you're using them with my hip against the wall. You could have the hip, touching or almost touching the wall. It's kind of important that you're sitting on the end of the bolster and I have my hands behind me. I'm just going to slide down onto my back and use one hand against the wall and one hand against my prop and spin up so that I land with my legs up the wall. And here's what I am seeking with this prop under my hips. I'm seeking that my tailbone is kind of curving over this edge of the prop closer to the wall, okay? So if your tailbone is flat on the bolster, it doesn't suck. It's not awful, but it's definitely not as good. So you can either spin down and go back up, or you can try to adjust how your body, adjust the prop underneath you. And then having a little something under the head is quite nice. And strapping the legs together is quite nice. But, here's what you need to know. This isn't a stretch, okay? So if you feel a stretch in the back of your legs, I want you to please back away from the wall more. Maybe even allow the knees to have a little bit of a bend, because this is not meant to be a stretch, and it is certainly not meant to be something for you to tolerate. Okay, so once you have the angle of your legs correct, if you have a strap that you can use, and you don't have to do this part, but it does help the circulation of the legs a little bit more, and it also helps the security of the legs staying upright and vertical, and so that way your muscles don't have to hold them at all. You're just going to place it around the thighs and cinch the strap together. Now, when I first learned it, we placed it actually around the hips, where the hip joint would be, and tighten there. I have experimented with this strap being in many, many different spots. I have put it around the calves. I have put it, just above the knees. I like middle of the thighs best. I want you to find what works most optimally for you. And again, this is just keeping the legs upright so that you can not have any effort. Then the arms can be open up, palms up, out to the sides, or maybe you'd like to place them hands on the belly so you can feel your breath. In this pose, unlike the last one, having the back of the head supported so the chin nestles down a little bit more is going to be nice. And you're just going to come into your breath once again, surrendering the weight of the body towards the floor, towards the props. So the parts of you that are resting on a floor or the prop or whatever, you're going to exhale and really let those parts descend. You're going to notice your feet hoisted up in the air. And notice the legs dropping down from the feet to the hips receiving the weight. And now you can stay here with your breath slowing down as long as your body wants. So pause the video if you want to stay for more than a minute more. So before we come out of Vipariti Karani, you can rise back into your body's awareness fully. We're going to get ready to move the legs. And besides of being an amazing counterpose for gardening, because of all the work we do with our legs when we're, doing physical labor, this is also a very cooling pose. Your body is close to the floor. Release the weight on the feet, ankles, so it's very good for the lymphatic system and helps the circulation. Sometimes the circulation can get a little heavy when it's hot out, which it often is when we're doing yard work. So this pose is really just an excellent, excellent gardening day pose. When you're ready to come out, you can slide the feet down, loosen the strap if you're using it, put the strap off to the side. And you're going to make your way to your side and go as slow as you want. And sometimes there's transitions between the transitions, so just take your time. Come to your side, slide off the bolster, push it back, adjust the head support and stay there for a second. Rest. There's no rush. What are you rushing for? No rush. And then you can come up. So we could end there, right? That'd be pretty good. But I am going to offer you also Shavasana. So for Shavasana, we're going to have you sit up real nice. We're going to use the bolster under your knees if you want it. And at least one blanket under your head. I said that wrong. A blanket under your head and a bolster under your knees will be the minimum props. So when I fold the blanket under my head, I go from this position to this position. And I'm actually going to turn so that the top of my head is here, because I'm going to do a really cool fold with this blanket and I want you to be able to see it. And so I have the folded edge out. And I'm going to have this under my knees. And I'm going to roll this last blanket and put it underneath my ankles. So I'm just going to go like this, tuck the fringe in and roll. So I get a nice ankle support. And so ankles over the green, roll. Gray bolster or whatever you've got there, pillow under the knees, and then head supported by this blanket here, which is only under my head and not at all under my shoulders, but yes, tucked right to the shoulders. Now, here's the really nice thing that you're going to do for yourself if you want to go the extra mile. You're going to slide your hand between the two folds of the blanket on both sides. And then you're going to grab those two corners. So set the head down, grab those two corners, top two corners, and fold them in. So they kind of hug the back of your skull. Then you're going to take your fingertips to the back corners and you're going to poof them in. Boop. If you've got something to cover your eyes, put it over your eyes. You're going to just press the back of your head down and ever so slightly lift the upper back and allow the shoulder blades to be parked next to each other. Arms at your sides, palms up, allowing the fingers to curl with space between your upper arms and your rib cage. And if this feels uncomfortable for you, if you'd be more comforted by having the hands in the belly, well, by all means, put your hands on your belly. Please make sure that the way your body is meeting the props and the floor feels smooth, that there are no bones poking into the floor or their neighboring bones, no skin pulling, no clothing twisted or pulling. And I'm going to talk you through this Shavasana so you can leave the video on and there'll be moments of silence. I'm going to encourage you to anchor into your breath and allow your exhales to be just a little bit longer. You don't have to make this a breathing practice, but allow the breath to be full and soft. Allow the exhales to have a velvety, feathery quality. And with your next exhale, allow your jaw to soften, maybe parting the lips, or at least they only touch softly. Next exhale, again softening the jaw as well as the back of the head and neck along that bony ridge. Exhaling, feeling that bony occipital ridge widen and the back of your neck slightly lengthen as you release. Feeling those muscles that touch the back of your skull, running up the back of your neck, feeling them loosen their grip as if they were fingers, going from gripping with a clenching fierceness to soft, soothing touch. Exhale, notice your eyes, and if you can, soften from the inner eyelid to the outer eyelid, and the way your eyes are touching your eyes. With another exhale, soften from the underside of your eyebrow, letting the brows feel like they're going to droop towards your cheekbones. With another exhale, soften from the center of your forehead, center of your eyebrows, out to the temples. And with another exhale, soften the muscles behind the eyes so that you feel like the energy of your eyes' will to see quiets. Let their urge to see, let that diminish or quiet, kind of like you're turning down the intensity of a radio or a stove, just turning it down, turning it down. Another exhale, soften from the center of the forehead down the nose to the nostrils, allowing the nostrils to quiet. And another exhale, soften from the center of the nose out across the cheeks to the jaw to the inner ear. Another exhale and soften from the center of the face out to the edges, softening around your hairline, following that around the ear, and from the center of the chin, across the undersides of the jaw. Drop this softening down the sides of the neck, the front of the neck and throat, spreading it like butter out to the shoulders, out through the arms, softening any gripping around the elbows or wrists or into the fingers and hands. Another exhale, soften from the jawline in the back of the skull, down the neck, down the back, and down the chest. Feeling the softening from the skin edges through to the center of the body. Finding the bottom of the front ribs, and if possible, softening where the soft belly meets the ribs at that line a little bit more, so that as you breathe, the belly and the ribs move freely, softly, easefully, with a gentle flaring and rising on the in-breath, and a subtle converging on the out-breath. Let this travel into the pelvis, where the soft belly meets the hips. Release deep into the anterior hips, spreading this to the outer hips, deep into the hip socket, and to the inner thighs, through the groin crease to the inner knees. You're going to let the legs just really release down to gravity. Feeling the legs attracted to the floor, especially the outside edge of the legs, letting the inner thighs fully release. Let this inform the back of the legs to release and your back itself to release. Noting this in the tailbone and in the low back, as well as around the shoulder blades, finding the space between the shoulder blades, where we hold so much tension, and see if you can exhale and let some of that tension melt away with each exhalation, softening around that inner ridge of each shoulder blade. And in fact, between the shoulder blades and the rib cage, feeling a softening there, so there's no pushing down into the floor or pulling up away from it. Now that the whole body is soft, you're going to notice how surrendered you are to gravity, earth. And consider earth to be receptive to you. And imagine all the heavy spots in your body, sending little roots down through the soil, down through the earth. All the parts of you that are exposed. Take in the air, become receptive to nourishment, to light, and unfurl and open. Your energy is unfurling and opening. You're becoming spacious, losing distinction of the edges of your body. And you're just going to stay here breathing a little longer. Slightly diffuse. And then as you're ready to start to come back into your own body, you can become aware of your breath, become aware of the sounds of my voice, the sounds in the room you're in, the sounds outside of the room you're in. Heck, maybe even the sounds outside of the room I'm in. And you're going to start to rustle up and bring some kind of movement, whatever feels right for you. I like to move the tongue a little side to side, and then the jaw, and then the head. Sometimes it's nice to draw the thumb across the fingertips or stretch the feet a little, whatever your body invites you to do. And then when you feel ready, you can bring a little more movement and bring one heel then the other to the bolster. Push the bolster away. You're going to make yourself off to whichever side you want, allowing yourself to move as slowly as you wish. And I certainly encourage you not to pop out of it. Feel free to move slowly through these transitions, the transitions inside of the transitions, until you are on one side and kind of taking in this reawakening phase. And then when you're ready to come up, you're going to use your top arm to kind of roll up head last. And I encourage you to take as long as you want through that process, but I'm going to say goodbye now, and I'm going to say thank you so much. I hope that you received some amazing benefit from this practice. And if you did, please like the video. Please share the video, comment on it, subscribe to the channel, and I hope to see you again real soon. Thank you so much. Namaste. Happy digging in the dirt.